Yo, what is going on, everybody? Welcome to the brand for you guys today. Welcome to the channel. We're feeling good, looking good, and smelling good. As your boy is back with a video for you guys today. Hope you're all in good health mentally and physically. Today we got another video discussion for you guys today. We're gonna do things a little differently from the last discussion video we did. Last one we did we tried to have a conversation about Kanate while also live playing the game, which was kind of rough because you're trying to put sentences together while also in the middle of a game that requires you to lock in. So for this video, we're gonna have audio playing over some gameplay, so people who are gameplay free should still be able to get gameplay. And those who want to hear the discussion, you'll be able to still hear the discussion. Today's video topic is going to be about scripting. Recently on the Pentez's live stream on both Twitch and YouTube, Nep was talking about how the game doesn't have scripting, and what that did was create a complete very long back and forth debate in both his Twitch chat and YouTube chat with him and a select number of other people who are on his side, talking about whether or not this game does or doesn't have any scripting, as a lot of people do feel like this game is scripted to have them to lose and to have bad players win. So today's video, we're going to give my 2 cents on that kind of topic, and kind of try to break down or give some details on what is the likely thing that goes on with this game, and how it plays, and just us and how we interpret it, what EA does when it comes to this game. So we're gonna put some games of rivals. That's what will be on that background. We're running my Sweat FC squad, which basically just means I'm playing my highest rated players in most positions, not all positions, but just most positions. Yeah, so let's get into the topic of the video, and let's also get into the gameplay. So to get into things that need deeper explanation, there are 3 things we know as truths when it comes to FC. There's input delay, RNG, and inconsistent gameplay. Input delay for a sports game can be seen as similar to lag comp for an FPS game. For those who don't play FPS games, lag comp is an intentional system to compensate for different internet connections. What is it compensating for? It's compensating for players who have bad internet, attempting to even the playing field for them against players with good internet. This is part of why you get after image deaths, or as it used to be called, my screen, your screen. Moments of FPS games where on your screen, you've already moved to a different location or behind a wall, but on your opponent's screen, you're still standing right in front of them. Or on your screen, you swear you shot first, but on a kill cam, it shows your opponent shoots first. Delays in FC work in a similar way. It's designed to not just slow down the pace of the game, but also give your opponent a chance to respond to what it is that you're doing. It is a way to artificially give the game an even playing field. So what about RNG? Well, that's self-explanatory. Animations have to be queued up by the game's code, which is where scripting in a different way exists, not the way in which you think of the term scripting. In this context, scripting is something every game has, every game does. It's just part of how gaming works. You have to write scripts, as it's a language of programming used for communicating with other programs within the game itself. This is a line-by-line execution. So to simplify, if you are about to do a slide tackle, the game's script has to queue that up, but at the same time also has to queue up what your opponent is doing and what the rest of the players on the pitch is doing as well via the AI. Because of there being so many images in the game, and the game being on an outdated code, this can lead to random moments that feel like the outcome is scripted in the way you think, but really it's just one line of code happening before the other line of code. Then there is the inconsistent gameplay. Sometimes in FC you have good gameplay, and most times FC you have bad to mediocre gameplay. Gameplay where the game is heavy, your players move slow, turning is slow, everything just feels like you're in quicksand. Thing is, both players can have different gameplay in the same match. You can have decent gameplay while your opponent has heavy gameplay, giving them giving you the advantage over them, and vice versa. All this doesn't even take into consideration ping and connection itself, which also plays a big role in why the game behaves the way that it does. Understand that regardless of what internet you get, your provider matters and your location matters. A lot of people, let's say in America, if you use say Spectrum for internet, if your entire neighborhood uses Spectrum, you're all sharing from the same infrastructure, which means during peak hours, aka primetime hours, 8 p.m., 4 p.m. after school, those are times of the day where the most people are using the internet, be it they're playing games or watching Netflix or whatever, and that's going to hurt you when it comes to you connecting to FC. But also understand that what platform you play on can also dictate your connection as well. For example, Sony Interactive, aka PlayStation, limits download speeds to maintain network stability. So an FC player on PS5 is at a connection disadvantage compared to those on PC and Xbox, which are not limited. which is also why people tend to recommend you not to have crossplay on when you're playing FC, because if you're on PlayStation, you do have a disadvantage when it comes to connection, not disadvantage when it comes to gameplay. At the same time, you have to understand how servers work and connection work. Most AAA games are on dedicated servers. However, you and your opponent connections still matter, regardless of the dedicated servers. They can be very high-end dedicated servers or low-end dedicated servers. It doesn't matter. Your connection, your opponent connection still matters in all of this. Anything you do in-game has to be uploaded to the server. That's where your upload speed matters. Anything your opponent does has to be downloaded from the server to you. This is where download speed matters. Within all of that, you can get latency and packet loss. All of this still doesn't take into account just how much the game's old, outdated code has to handle. All the playstyle pluses, thousands of animations, new role system, etc. All of that play a role in why we get bad gameplay and delays. Why do rebounds happen the way that they do? Because the game is coded to have keepers parry more frequently than any other keeper animation, and the parry usually always pushes the ball forward back onto the attacker. And it's all because of the game's coding and also just because of the animation that the game has programmed into it. And this also doesn't take into consideration it's running on an engine that wasn't designed for it. The Frostbite engine was designed for Battlefield, not sports games. With all this in consideration, this is why saying it's better to be lucky than good exists in gaming. Now, does all of this warrant the numerous excuses we as gamers make up? Depends. If you're losing 4-0, that's not because the things I mentioned in this video, are affecting you. That's because you're facing someone who's actually better than you. These kind of things that I'm mentioning in this video, these are things that could decide close games, a 2-1 game, a 1-1, 2-2, things like that. It's not going to affect a 9-0 game. If you lose 2-1 because of bad coding, that is an indicator your opponent's better than you. But those moments won't lead your opponents putting up 5 goals on you. That's you playing bad defense. And a lot of the times you got to just take accountability. A lot of the times people play these games, especially FC, and think they'll do things themselves, and instead of just taking accountability on what they just did, it's the game's fault. I've seen streamers whose names I won't name, who will literally just shoot the ball straight at the keeper and then just say keepers are too strong. You didn't try to shoot near post or far post. You didn't try to do a chip or a finesse shot or anything like that. Just shot it straight at the keeper and then, oh, keepers are too strong. You just shot right at the keeper. I've seen streamers who will just sit and spam outside the box trivelas the entire game and then be mad that they're not scoring. They'll say that the AI is too strong for the defense, and there's something wrong with time shooting. It's like, you're not doing any real build-up play. You're just running to the outside the box and then just shooting a finesse shot or trivela, and your opponent is actually doing real build-up play and scoring goals. And sometimes they will do a finesse shot trivela and score those because they're differentiating how they approach the offense. Point is, people make up excuses for why things are happening a certain way without, looking at what they did wrong. Did they play the defense? They pulled a player out of position, things like that. But with all that consideration, there are things in the game's code that can affect how you play. But it won't dictate the outcome of blowouts. Also, I didn't even mention, the strength of defensive AI, which does play a role in why the gameplay feels the way it does. Heavy gameplay makes it easier for defensive AI to do what it needs to do, what it's programmed to do, because it slows down the gameplay, making it easier for the AI to adjust to what you, the players, are doing. All this does not mean they're scripting in the way that you think this is. EA isn't deciding the outcome of games intentionally. They aren't deciding at random you'll be losing this particular game. Though form-based matchmaking is a thing, that doesn't mean EA has decided you will win or lose based on it. And people will also bring up DDA. They'll say well, EA has admitted that DDA exists. You have to understand that DDA does exist in offline game modes. It's intentional. And it's not just EA. Most sport games have some form of DDA in their offline modes. MLB The Show, for example, has an actual option to you can turn down the DDA that the game has, or turn it off entirely if you want to, if you feel like it's just too hard. It has progression-based difficulty. And it's just a thing. And so offline game modes, and maybe including the squad battles, which is online but against AI, will have that DDA. That does not mean that DDA exists when you're playing against another player. So in the end, we have to accept what kind of game we are playing. That doesn't mean you can't voice frustrations, because doing that can lead to developers working on ways to remove or improve the things that lead to why the game play is the way that it is, and what it can be, and why it can be what it is. When it comes to the engine, you have to understand that developers don't really get to choose their engine. It's something that they kind of get told they have to use by the people who are in charge, the suits. Developers are going to do what they can do. there's a chain of command, and if you're not the one in charge, you can't really say much. We learned this with Bungie. When Bungie did a bunch of layoffs, developers who got laid off took to Twitter and said, hey, we heard all your complaints, we told the hires about the complaints, and they just didn't care. And the same thing probably happens here, where there's people who work on the game who probably tells people in charge, like, hey, the community's saying this, we need to work on this, maybe we should probably change engines. And they're like, no, we're not changing engine. We're gonna all just stick to using Frostbite, because Frostbite is DICE's engine, is, you know, our own in-house engine. We're not going to spend money to rent or license Unreal or CryEngine. No, we're using Frostbite as our engine. But what all this does mean is you have to mentally prepare yourself for what game you're playing. I'm someone who mostly plays FPS games. In games like Rainbow Six Siege, every gun is a one-shot kill on headshots. You can die every single round from a guy just randomly shooting walls or windows with a pistol, and it happens to hit you in the head while you ran past that random wall or random window. It just happens. That can be frustrating, but it's something you know can happen because it's just part of the game. When you play these games, you know what can happen. And again, this is why the saying exists: it's better to be lucky than good. What does that mean? It just means that no matter how good you are or how bad your opponent is, things can happen at random that just leads to them getting, you know, a kill or getting a goal. Again, rebounds. You can lose a game because of a rebound goal. You can lose a game because of a broken mechanic. That's not someone being good. It's just someone being lucky that mechanic exists, and being lucky that it hasn't been patched yet, or that the code can't handle it. All right, so in the end, when it comes down to it, a lot of what goes on with gamers, just a general statement, not to, if as the saying goes, if it don't apply, let it fly. Gamers don't want to hold themselves accountable. That includes myself as well. When it comes to us playing video games, you know, we try to find a reason for why what happened. And most cases, we don't want to see ourselves as the reason for why something happened. We want to see the game as the reason why it happened. It has to be the game. It has to be, you know, scripting that led to what happened. And again, scripting isn't what people think it is. You know, scripting does exist in a certain kind of context when it comes to game programming, but it doesn't exist in a way that gamers think it exists. It's not like someone's, you know, cherry picking what goals go in, what goals don't go in, and when a goal will or won't go in, things like that. Like, it's not, this isn't, you know, the WWE or AEW or a movie or, you know, opera. It's like, it's not that kind of scripting. But because when we lose people who we feel like is worse than us, we have that thought process in our head, like we have to find an excuse for why we lost, because we, especially, like I said, especially for someone who we feel like we're a worse player, we gotta find an excuse. And I feel like, you know, and understand when I say things in this video, I'm talking about myself included in it, because we all have emotional reactions. So I might say something out of just an emotional reaction from what's going on, but, you know, I can guarantee there's probably been games where I've won where my opponent probably was like, yo, this guy's not better than me. This guy doesn't do anything other than just dribble around and pass around and score goals that way. He hasn't scored. He hasn't taken a single freaking long ball pass. He ain't done a single freaking cutback. He ain't done a single freaking, you know, Trivella. He's not spamming finesse shots, and he still beat me. Bullshit. This guy's worse than me. This game's scripted. I can guarantee there's people who I've beaten who had that thought process. It's like how I have the same thought process. How I'll have thought process where I'll lose a game by one goal and it's a rebound goal, and it'll be like, yo, that guy's not better than me. I know he's not better than me. I can watch how he's playing. He's not better than me. He's got a lucky ass goal one. And that could be true, but at the same time, maybe he still wins that game even without a rebound goal. Maybe he does score an authentic goal and still wins the game. You know, like, at the end of the day, this is a video game, and we have to understand, like, we have to play it for that. You know, I think part of the issue with this game, when it comes to us ourselves as a community, is we take these games way too serious. And we take these games way too serious. We make up excuses for why we lose instead of just being like, yeah, we lost, move on. You know, like when I play battle royales, my thought process is we lost, queue up. You know, like I'm not going to sit and dwell on them. I'm not going to like make excuses for why we lost. You know, we lost, let's queue up again. You know, whereas like at FC, you lose your head because you feel like you're so good and this game's so competitive and sweaty to where, you know, if you lose, it feels like you just lost money. And that's how people play the game. People play games, not just this game. People play video games in general as if money's on the line. Everyone's trying to play like they're in a pro league tournament. You're not, you know? That's why the meta exists. The meta exists because it's the easiest way to get wins, and you want to be able to like to appear like you're a good player. That's why when it comes to like people talk about the game in general, and they try to like use their own stat line or their rank to validate their opinion. Like people will be in Nep's channel like, I've been an elite division player all year. I disagree with you. And it's like, the fact that you listed your rank is you trying to validate your opinion by pointing out your rank. Your rank doesn't really mean anything. In a lot of video games, your rank comes to you just by playing the game enough because how easy it can be to just get ranks, especially when it comes to a game that has open matchmaking. I'm not saying this game does, but you know, playtime can get you to a high rank, and also cheesing mechanics and playing meta can also provoke you into a rank you shouldn't be in. But so, you know, saying you finish rank 1 or you're in elite division doesn't make your opinion more valid to someone who isn't in those divisions. Maybe a little bit when it comes to someone who's like, let's say like if a Div 10 player gives an opinion, their opinion has less experience than an elite division player. But someone who's Div 6 or higher, who plays the game a lot, their opinion is just as valid as someone who's elite division. And if you say otherwise, you're just being immature. You know, you have to respect people's opinions. But yeah, there's no such thing as like one person having a more valid opinion. So I'm trying to point out, and like, you know, again, I'm including myself in this as well. You cannot just play the game and ignore the potential that you are the reason you lost. You might have made a bad pass that led to a goal. Maybe you pass from your left back to your center back when there's an opponent right next to you. That led to a goal. Maybe you could have scored, but instead of, you know, taking a finesse shot, you decide to pass the ball because you want to force a goal with a player you just got. There's gonna be reasons for why you lose. That is all on you. Anyways, that's it for me. I'll catch you guys on the next video. Being Archer. I'm out of here. Deuces.